Hi everyone, I'm Natalie, a member of Team Mama New York, and I'm so happy to see you all at our weekly series, Uma Talks, where we answer your questions. And today I'm interviewing Rita. Hi Rita,
Hi, Natalie. Hi, everyone.
how was your week?
Week has been busy. It's great. I have an announcement. I'm back in the office from this week. So, I feel refreshed. I feel like a different person, invigorated again. So, it's been great for me. How about you, Natalie?
I'm good as well. I'm learning new skills, and normally I'm working from home right now because there's lots of things are still closed. But you can see that I have pretty nice home office, so it's interesting. It's good, and finally everything started like looking better, and people freak out less. And I hope that our posts about inner confidence help someone to feel better and to listen to themselves. And so today we're gonna discuss and we're gonna answer all your questions regarding uh, inner voice. And the first question is from Jane. She's asking, does everyone have inner voice? How can I tell if I do?
Thank you for your question, Jean. That's actually a really, really good question. So the first thing I would say is that everybody does have an inner voice. And the way to think of inner voice isn't as a spoken voice necessarily. It can be inner feeling, it could be your inner emotions, it could be your inner thoughts. What do you think about something? What is your viewpoint? If you see something on TV or something happening outside, how does that make you feel? That can be your inner voice. So absolutely you have inner voice. And how can you tell? How do you feel about something? Just think about daily life. Do you feel like, what's your opinion about something? Do you feel like saying something? What are your thoughts about that? And that is your inner voice.
Thank you, Rita. And the next question is from Bob. And this question is a bit different because it looks like from the question that Bob is a growth-oriented person and he has different situations with his inner voice. So the question is, my inner voice is frequently being in conflict with my surrounding, like friends and family. And what should I do? I'm a growth oriented person, and I don't want to offend anyone by choosing to learn instead of party, to probably both prioritize, have issues with prioritizing and how to treat all the feedback from his surroundings. So, what we can tell him?
Bob, I love your question. You know what? We've all been there. Another way of phrasing that would actually be peer pressure, actually. I've been through university, I've been a student, we've all been in situations that we've had, friends, our social circle, and, sometimes they do things, sometimes they don't, sometimes you accompany them, sometimes you don't. But when you're younger, especially, it's harder to say no because you want to fit in, you want to be invited to parties, you want to get out and about. But you know what, Bob? At the end of the day, it's an inner feeling you get. If you're too tired or you just don't feel right, just say, gently excuse yourself, or maybe go along for a bit if you want to and say, you know what, guys, I've got something to do later, I'm going to head now, and then leave. And that's the easiest thing. It really depends on your situation and surroundings, but that's the only way. And like with anything else, Bob, practice makes perfect. Try and doing it once, try and do it another time. Try meeting somebody, even a family member or somebody for a coffee or at home on Zoom at the moment, and just try and get out of that conversation. Say, oh, I've got to go now. We'll catch up later, and see how it feels like to exit from a situation, because these are skills that later on will help you when it comes to networking or pulling out of conversations. How to say no is as essential as getting into and finding out opportunities for yourself. So absolutely you can do it, Bob. And I believe in you. And so if you need any extra help or any advice, feel free to reach out again.
All right, thank you, Rita. And let's move to the next question. And the next one is from Emily. And Emily is a manager. And I'm so happy that actually our followers are asking these questions because it feels like this way we can build a better culture for everyone. So Emily noted that anyone who joins her team after a while tend to become like each other. And she's asking, how can I promote my team to use their inner voice?
Oh, Emily, that's a great question. So that actually sounds like you've described something that I think every single organization at some point has and goes through, which is why I guess they invite, companies like ours to come in and sort of fix that. What that is an example of is groupthink. It is basically a concept, an age-old concept now, where a famous psychologist actually came about with the thought because it helped efficiency once upon a time in a corporate setting. It helps people once upon a time think, you know what, we can be more efficient if everybody thinks the same way. Well, you know what, life has changed, companies have changed, we are in a more diverse and global work culture. What we're trying to do now is encourage outside and different voices and thinking. So the best thing for you, Emily, is really to bring your team members together and show them from your own example of how you think differently to, for example, someone above you, your own boss has said to you. For example, if they've asked you to come up with a solution or come up with a project or a plan, think differently. How would you address it differently? Similarly with your friend circle as well, and your team culture. It's exactly the same thing in team meetings, for example, Emily. Ask people, start off by asking them personal questions. Tell them you want to bring that side out more and more now. It's a lot more efficient. It's a more the things to do, and ask people to share their personal stories more, because that brings part of their inner voice with them. And ultimately, it's their inner voice that helps shape and make your team dynamic. And that's exactly what you're trying to do right now.
Thank you, Rita. It's such a deep situation. And I personally love the idea to implement the same approach for personal, like kind of like team, like friends and family, because technically we tend to behave the similar way, follow the similar scenario like everywhere.
Oh, totally. And people forget, they always treat, well, we were taught to treat professional life and personal life as being two separate entities. You go inside the door of your office, you open up the elevator button, you go in, and then suddenly everything about your personal life, your home life has been left at home. You speak when you're spoken to, you smile in a certain way, you wear the same sort of clothing as your colleagues do. And we are very much taught to, as the phrase goes, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But that's changed now. People are acknowledging that we are unique, we are individuals, and that is what makes it interesting to go to work and find out these different stories. That is what actually sets companies apart now, by saying what makes you different and how can we celebrate those differences. Well, you start from one person at a time. It's very grassroots. You celebrate individuals, and that goes back in the home place too. We're talking about the professional world mostly today, but don't forget that your professional and your personal lives are now more intertwined. What we're doing at work is a bit about how we are at home. Our inner voice is something that we are born with. Our views is something that we have and we bring with us. What we think at home is how we think at work as well. Let our views be known a little bit. Think about ways to distribute that information.
Thank you, Rita. It's such a wise approach, and personally, I'm so grateful about all the shift that happening when we actually embrace our difference in personality at work too. And I think this way we can build healthier companies, make better solutions, and especially it can be useful for people who tend to be the most innovative, the ones who have the highest potential to bring the fresh air. And pretty often, especially this kind of people, they are getting blocked, or they can't feel the culture because they do things different. And those individuals can bring the best ideas. The thing that if company use it, they become a leader. They can make a bigger shift. But this kind of people face the biggest challenges with all this thinking and speaking up. And you know what? Our next question is actually looks like from this kind of person, because it is from James, and he's asking, whenever I speak my mind, I tend to offend people. What can I do? Because and I want us to help them to understand, because this situation can be very broad, from just not to be rude, to communicate your ideas, communicate innovations, and point to the issues at work that company do need to fix to grow, to be successful. So what we can advise people about this?
That's a really, really good question, and thank you for bringing that up. And James, so many people go through that. I shared a quote quite a few months back now about when somebody asked me about how do you find that conviction to kind of, you know, that boldness. And I said, you know what, you've got to ultimately stay true to yourself. And then somebody actually commented on that and said, you know what, every time I try to do that, Rita, you know, it end up backfiring. I say the wrong thing and I offend people. So I'm going to give the same advice now to you, James, and to everyone watching that I did to my friend back then. And it's really all about your approach and how you address and how you speak up your voice. If you think about it, you know, we are human beings. We are social people. Some people we get along with more and some people we don't get along with as much. Now, who are the people we get along with more? People generally that listen to you, that it's nice to have a conversation with, right? And part of that is just going back and forth and listening and exercising your different viewpoints. It's exactly the same as exercising your inner voice or a different type of opinion. I always tell people, structure what you're going to say first. Acknowledge you want someone to listen to you. Well, you start by listening to somebody else first. So start off by saying, I completely get your point. You know, I understand you're saying whatever they're saying, and sort of repeat it a bit back to them so they understand that you have understood it too. And then you say to them and structure what you're going to say and say, you know what, have you thought of it this way too? That don't you think if we look at it from the other side, then X, Y, Z can happen. And it's a good way of showing that you are thinking of both sides of the coin, because there are two sides, you know, of every story, but also it shows that you are willing to listen, like you are giving somebody the option to listen to them. Let them give you the decency of listening back to you as well. So I would say try these tips. Think before you speak, because you know you might be saying the most meaningful thing, but your delivery might be a bit abrupt. So practice, take a deep breath, think about what you're going to say and why. What is your takeaway? So you are saying something. What is the purpose of that? And then try that, and I think you're going to be in a better place. So thank you again for that question.
Thank you, Rita. And the next question is from Ravina, and Ravina is asking, when should I start teaching my children to listen to their inner voice, and what is the best way to do that?
Hi, Ravina. That is a great question. You know, I have 2 small children myself, and you know what? You start now. There is no right or wrong time to start the conversation about inner voice, because really what it is, it's about building up resilience. It's about building up personality. It's about not being afraid to voice your opinions as you get older. So start that conversation now, Ravina. Little things. I mean, if your situation is anything like mine, there's a lot of homeschooling going on currently, which means my kids are at home and they get to see me in my daily activities a lot. So let them see you and how bold you are in the work that you do or the conversations that you have. Let them express their voices. And one of the ways of doing that, Ravina, is just encourage them to ask questions. When they see something or an event, don't quash them or quash their creativity and their inquisitiveness, because part of a child's inner voice is asking questions. They want to know what happens and why. So let them ask those whys, and that will ultimately be what is their inner voice.
Thank you, Rita. It's such a deep thing, and I hope everyone will try this. And even when you have older kids, and if you didn't even thought about this idea earlier, so feel free to do it right now and do practice for yourself and for your kids and for your family. And this is all questions for today. And thank you everyone for asking us questions and for giving us such a wonderful opportunity to help you to navigate your work situations, your communication situations, and your confidence situations. And you know what? The next week we're gonna talk about workplace culture. So please feel free to DM us and to start submitting your questions, or even email us or send it in comments. And the next week we will pick the best questions and we'll answer at our weekly Q&As. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. And I love the topic of workplace culture. I just wanted to add one thing though. When we talk about inner voice, everybody can start that journey from home. Think about, if any of you have children, have conversations with your kids at home as well, because this is a way of developing it from an early age. How they grow up now, how they see you as a role model and a voice, is how ultimately they can exercise their voices growing up and later on.
Thank you, Rita. It was very, very useful, and I hope everyone who listen to us will have better inner situation and will understand themselves and will better coordinate themselves with the world, with the listening to their voice and using this superpower to speak up, to find the right things, to build better environment and better conversations. So, and thank you all of you guys again, and can't wait to see you next week. Bye.
Bye.